Welcome to the technical walkthrough of the Excel model for compensation of the enterprise's fixed costs. The Excel model, which can be found on pwc.dk, will look like this when you open it up. Um, is It's built into this front page, and then it has four different tabs. I'll get into that in a moment. So the purpose is, of course, to create the basis of the application for the compensation of the enterprise's fixed costs. Um, and then you can enter your company information here, and then the model will take you into four different steps. There are loading of the trial balances, reviewing fixed cost, reviewing revenue, and reviewing actual figures, and enter the expectations. Further down, you can see we have some useful links and guidance, and executive orders and stuff like that to different web pages where you'll be able to find information relevant to filling out this sheet and the underlying rules. As I said in the very beginning, this is a technical walkthrough, so I won't be coming in, be going over the guidelines, but more how is this Excel model built and what are you supposed to enter where for it to give you the numbers using to enter the compensation. Um, Further down, there is a disclaimer that you need to read and comply with, or understand at least, in order to use this Excel workbook. So let's get to it. First step is loading of the trial balances. You can either click here on the sheet, doesn't matter. We click on step number one. As you can see here, we need to enter three different trial balances from three different periods. We're going to start with the first one, trial balance December to February. I will pull it up here, December to February. And it's supposed to be used for the calculation of the firm's fixed cost. The trial balance should be in a state like this one presented here. So it should be cleaned. There shouldn't be any totals or subtotals. So when you add up all of the accounts, you should sum to zero for all of the accounts. So it should be cleaned and there shouldn't be any mess lying around within it. When that is done, you can take all of the numbers without the headings and copy them into the help sheet. You should place your cursor here in this cell, and then you can paste as value. You can either do that by pressing this combination, or you can just right click and press on the numbers. This will insert as values. It will expand the table and ensure that the formatting is in line with the rest of the model. That was the first one. Now we will do the same for the trial balance from April to June. That's for calculation of the enterprise revenue in the reference period. So I will bring up April to June, and the same should apply. It should add to zero. It does. No totals or subtotals. I will copy paste this information into my help spreadsheet, paste as values, and the same goes for the last. This is a trial balance used for the latest adopted financial statements. Those can vary depending on your situation of the company you're calculating for. So you should read up on the rules to be sure you're using the right period. For this company, the relevant period will be 2019, all of the year. So I will bring up that trial balance here and copy, paste. As you can see, the control is intact. Sum to zero, and I will paste it here. Again, paste as values. So that's actually the first step you need to walk through, and we have actually finished that already. So you can either hit the back button or click on front page, does not matter. We're now back on the front page and we can jump right into step two, which is review of fixed cost. The review of fixed costs is this sheet here. I will start by going over the way the sheet works, and then we'll try to run through an example with actual numbers. So as the way you should go about it is the white cells. These are meant for entering data, and the yellow cells will auto-populate. You can see there are some formulas which will auto-populate some information. Um, Column number 3, select cost category. We have some predefined cost categories, which are the ones we're going to be using in the official compensation statement. So you should stick. You will in this category be forced to choose one of those. And then if you have any comment, you can enter them here. The next column is a control column, and we can see this is to ensure there aren't any duplets or any discrepancies. So if we try now and enter two accounts, we can see here the control tells us the account appears twice, which is not good, of course. And then also we can see that we do not have an account 5,000 in the trial balance. Why we need to go back and check if this is actually the right number. So these are some of the control functionality built into the spreadsheet. If we move further down the line of columns, we can see here it will import the trial balance used for the latest adopted financial statements, and it will import the numbers here of the trial balance from December to February, which was the one we were used to determining the fixed costs. The next two columns are for the cutoff or accrual or adjustment columns. So let's say you have you have rent up here or similar, and you haven't made the proper accruals in your bookkeeping, but it needs to be reflected in the statement. Then you should make your manual accrual here, and of course make the explanation in the next column. Of course, the explanations are very important, but so are the adjustments, because it needs to present a fair view and a correct view of the actual costs. Over here, we will see then the audited trial balance in a 3 months perspective, used for some plausibility checks. The same with the uh, added numbers of the actual cost from December to February with the cutoff, and what is the difference in total numbers, and what is the difference in percentage. Then the next column will see if those numbers, if there's a larger difference, then you will get different results. We'll see that when we go through the example, but here you will have either an action item or an OK item. And if you get an action item where you need to explain or similar, you can explain it out here, why there is a difference between the two. Maybe that's relevant, or maybe it shouldn't be there. But you will need to enter those information here. The plausibility check depends on these acceptable variances or deviations, and you are able to change them. We'll play around with that when we go through the actual example. Then the next column will be a correction for variable costs. So let's say some of your rents is variable and you need to adjust for that. You can do that here, or some other variable cost you need to adjust for in interest or whatever. And then you can make an explanation of why have you made this change. And of course, all through the work paper and the Excel model, it's very important to explain the corrections you're making, why you're making them. That will make it much easier later on when being audited for everybody to understand why were these corrections made, and to follow up on those. So it will make for a smooth process. At the top level, you can make other corrections if relevant, and again, an explanation. And of course, the further out you go, the more relevant or the more precise your explanation needs to be for it to make sense. And that's actually the way the model works. So now let's try to enter some numbers. The way we're going to go about it is we're going to go into the trial balance, and we're going to find the calculation, this trial balance for December to February, because that is the one we're supposed to look at for the enterprise's fixed cost. So we will find the fixed cost accounts, and I have one here with rent. We have one with insurance and subscriptions. We have some depreciation, and we have some interest. So now you can see as I enter a tick or an X here, you can see a control over here says that this account have not yet been transferred to the fixed cost. And that's supposed to help us not miss any accounts, or ensure that the completeness check is and we haven't missed anything. So the easiest way would be to just filter for the X, and now we have the accounts. So I'll copy these to the fixed costs either by going back and then selecting my fixed cost, or just clicking on the tab down here. I will place my cursor in this cell and again paste as values. This ensures that the formatting is all right when they're going through. For the cells down here, I don't need. I will just delete those. I will now select the cost category of each. So the first one's going to be rent. The next one's going to be insurance. I have a subscription one. And then we got depreciation. Got a couple of those. And then we have the interest. So if I needed to make any comments as to why I think the insurance would be in the other fixed operating cost or subscriptions. Now it says including insurance, but if that wasn't the case, then I could make my comments here as to why this account belongs in this specific category. And as we can see, there are no duplets and we're not missing anything. Everything looks good with these accounts we have entered. They are in the trial balance and all. As you can see now, it have automatically entered some of the numbers for us, which is good. From the trial balances, and now we can do our manual cutoff. So the easiest thing would to be try and look at these columns together, so we can see what was the trial balance for the adopted financial statements and what is it for the trial balance from 19 to December 19 to February 20. The manual cutoff will be relevant here in the very first cell, because when we look, if I just zoom out a little bit and maybe make this a little bit smaller, we can see here that there is a difference. So the trial balance says 222,000, but the audited trial balance for a 3-month perspective last year was 789,000. So there's a difference of a bit more than 500,000, and I think for this company we need to correct that. It's could be because they receive their rent quarterly, and we need to adjust that. So the bookkeeping is actually reflecting the actual cost relating to the 3 months. So I'm just going to manually input the missing amount. I'm gonna, if I go now, we can see the difference is 0, because now they line up, and then we can say quarterly invoicing explanation, or whatever might be relevant for the specific case. We could do the same with the insurance. It's a cutoff or accrual issue, and we can fix that by making the manual adjustment here. Again, if we go further to the right, we can see what are the variance or deviation in a percentage, and we can see the plausibility check will say these deviations are small, so could just be the way of the pricing or something like that. These are very small, but then there are some larger deviations compared to our percentage checks, where an explanation is required if we don't, if it wasn't caused by an accrual error or similar. If we change our possibility, say we accept deviation that are much larger than this, if we change it to 10%, we can see, well, the total equivalent would be 108,000, and those are less than that. Therefore, the plausibilities check is now okay. But for this purpose, we will just change it to 1, and we will make the proper adjustments over here. Like this, and we leave the rest be. So if you want to, you can make your explanation here. Then again, there could be some variable costs that we need to make a correction to here. It could be, as I mentioned, something with the rent. Let's just say that for the 50,000 of the rent is variable, and we need to make a correction to that, and then put in an explanation here. Again, other corrections, and they're all the way in column 20. We now have the total number of fixed costs going through the model. So that was step 2, and how you're supposed to fill out. Again, the explanations are very important, so you should really focus on those. and of course getting the numbers right. Of course, when entering these information, the deviation and the plausibility check will help us ensure that we get all the way around the bookkeeping and we don't miss anything. So now I know it was quarterly invoicing, but it is also a way for us to know which account should we dive into to get an understanding of why is there a deviation. But that was the fixed cost. So those were the first two steps. Now we can go to step number 3. And again, the layout is actually the same as the fixed cost, and it's the same steps we will be going through. So I think we should just jump right into the example. So I will again go to the trial balance. I will remove the filter I applied earlier. I will move to the trial balance from April to June, because these are the calculations of the revenue in the reference period. And I will make my tick marks as so. I'll take these 5 accounts. Those are my revenue accounts. I don't need to, but I will just apply the filter here to ensure I select the right accounts. Copy these into the revenue. Again, I could also just have pressed out here, step number 3, and I will paste as values. Again, I will delete these rows as I don't need them. Good. So I should select a cost category, sales category, and we have accounts subject to VAT, except from VAT or an export, and these are subject to VAT. Then I have less, except from VAT, the rest of the 3. And then, of course, here you're able to make some comments. Could be one account including all 3 types. We will have a place later on for being able to adjust these. But the comments you will make here if you have any. Again, the control is okay. These accounts were found in the trial balance. Everything looks good. The trial balance used for the latest adopted financial statement is presented here, and the trial balance number is presented here. If we have any manual cutoff regulation, we could put the information here. And again, the explanation is here. So it's the same way of working as we were through before. Again, over here we have the deviation and the plausibility checks. What would that be in a 3 months perspective? What are the what do the cutoff and our actual trial balance say, and what is the difference then? And then we need to explain why these numbers don't add up. Why is there a difference between the years? Um, Again, same way of working. The other corrections would be out here, and the explanations would also be here. So by now you should be somewhat familiar with the workflow and how to look at this. Then finding the actual numbers and the explanation can be a bit more tricky. So that would be step 3. We can head back to review actual figures and enter expectations. So this is where we bring it all together. So we start by looking at the revenue. We have all of the accounts related to subject to VAT, the one except from VAT, and then from export. As I mentioned before, we would now have a chance to make an exception. Let's say all export and subject to VAT were all mixed in the same account. We get to move some of the revenue to another category, so we can enter it correctly and then give our reason for movement here. And we can see over here that the actuals from April to June are presented, and those were the one we entered in the revenue with all our cutoff and all our corrections that we have explained, and with the last exceptional corrections. So column 5 and 6 will be the ones going on to the compensation statement. So the next hard step and a new step is the enter the expected revenue for March to June 2020. And we need to carefully explain how we found this, how we came to this number, and how is the development directly attributable to the COVID-19 scenario. So if we say we expect only a revenue of 5 million here, and I guess 750,000 here, and 300,000 here. We would need to explain how did we find these numbers and why is the change caused by COVID-19. We can see we expect a total fall in revenue for the same period in the April June last year to this period now. We have a difference of 51%, and these are the different amounts. So does that make sense to us? And the same will be down here. We will do with the cost. Again, all accounts are now summarized in these categories. We can make the corrections on top if that is relevant. And then we need to say what will our expected cost be in this period, like so. And describe the expectation and how did we land on this number. So again, we can see our different amount and in different in percent out here. And so these are the numbers that will go in your compensation. And you have now successfully, through the Excel model, calculated your compensation for fixed costs related to the COVID-19 crisis. This was again a technical walkthrough. If you have any questions regarding the methodology, consult these links and these executive orders. Ask your PwC accountant. He will be able to guide you and help you through this. Yes, have a nice day and good luck.